Taeho Kim walked through the long hallway toward the great meeting room. His black shoes made soft sounds on the metal floor. The walls around him were covered with symbols from 1,000 different worlds. Each symbol told a story of peace between the stars. But today would not be a day of peace. Taeho had been the human voice in the Galactic Council for 12 years. He had seen many arguments and many votes, but he had never seen anything like what was coming today. The great meeting room was huge. It could hold representatives from 848 different species. The ceiling was so high that clouds sometimes formed near the top. Giant screens showed the faces of council members who could not travel to the station. Taeho took his seat in the human section. It was small compared to the others. Humans were still new to the galaxy. They had only joined the council 50 years ago. Many of the other species had been here for thousands of years. To his right sat the Saurian representatives. Their skin looked like green leather and their eyes were cold. Speaker Vorthak was their leader. He was old and proud. He did not like humans very much. To his left were the insect people called the Hive Collective. Elder Quikinara spoke for all of them. She was ancient and wise, but she thought humans were too young to understand important things. The great bell rang 3 times. The meeting was starting. Speaker Vorthak stood up. His long tail moved behind him as he walked to the center of the room. Today we will vote on Resolution 4471. This resolution will remove humanity from the Galactic Council. Taeho felt his heart beat faster. He had known this was coming, but hearing it still hurt. For too long, Vorthak continued, humans have interfered in our affairs. They fix problems that we did not ask them to fix. They suggest solutions that we do not want. They act like they know better than species who have lived among the stars for millions of years. Many alien voices made sounds of agreement. Taeho heard clicking from the insect people. He heard deep growls from the bear-like Ursans. He heard high whistles from the bird people called Avirans. Elder Kikshinara rose on her 6 legs. Her voice was like many voices speaking at once. The humans mean well, but they are too eager, too quick to act. They do not understand the careful balance we have built over centuries. They upset this balance with their aggressive solutions. Taeho wanted to speak, but the rules said he had to wait. He watched as more and more representatives stood to speak against humanity. They take jobs from our people, said one alien. They make us look weak, said another. They think they are better than us, said a third. Finally, it was Taeho's turn to speak. He walked to the center of the room. All those alien eyes watched him. Some looked angry. Some looked sad. Most looked like they had already made up their minds. Friends, Taeho began. His voice was calm but strong. We humans came to the galaxy with hope. We wanted to help. We wanted to learn. We wanted to be part of something bigger than ourselves. He looked around the room. When the plague hit Kepler 442, human doctors worked for months without sleep to find a cure. When the war started between the Zephyrians and the Altarians, human peacekeepers stopped the fighting. When the great mining station at Vega 7 was going to explode, human engineers fixed it in time. Some aliens moved uncomfortably in their seats. They remembered these things. We never asked for thanks, Taeho continued. We helped because it was right. We help because we care about all life in the galaxy. He paused and looked directly at Speaker Vorthak. If you vote us out today, you will lose more than you know. We humans do not just fix problems that everyone can see. We fix the small problems too. The ones that seem unimportant. The ones that keep everything working. Vorthak made a sound like a laugh. We managed the galaxy for millions of years before humans arrived. We will manage just fine without you. The vote began. One by one, each species cast their vote. The Saurians voted yes. The Hive Collective voted yes. The Ursans voted yes. The Avirans voted yes. Taeho watched the numbers on the big screen. 847 votes to remove humanity. Only 1 vote against. The humans had voted to stay. The resolution passes, announced Vorthak. He looked pleased. Humanity is no longer welcome in the Galactic Council. You have 30 standard days to remove all human personnel, equipment, and influence from council space. Taeho stood up slowly. Around the room, aliens were celebrating. Some were cheering. Some were making their species' version of happy sounds. 30 days, Taeho said quietly, but his voice carried in the sudden silence. You want all humans gone in 30 days. That is correct, said Vorthak. Taeho nodded. Very well. But remember this day. Remember that you chose this. When things start to break, remember that you sent away the people who knew how to fix them. He turned and walked toward the exit. Behind him, the celebration continued. As the door closed behind him, Taeho pulled out his communication device. He pressed a button that he had hoped he would never need to press. "Emergency Protocol 7, he said into the device. "This is Ambassador Kim. Begin immediate withdrawal of all human assets from galactic space. Full evacuation authorized." On the other side of the galaxy, Heejin Park received the message in her engineering station on Nexus Prime. She had been maintaining the life support systems for the past 6 years. Now she had to pack up everything and leave. She looked around at all the machines that kept 8 million aliens alive and comfortable. Soon these machines would be the aliens' problem. Heejin began making a list of everything that would need to be shut down or transferred. The list was very long. The aliens were about to learn what humans really did in the galaxy. Fleet Admiral Do-Yun Lee stood on the bridge of the human flagship New Seoul. Through the big windows, he could see dozens of human ships gathering near the edge of Council space. Each ship was full of humans leaving their jobs and homes among the stars. The evacuation had been going on for 2 weeks. Do-Yun had never seen anything like it. Humans were coming from everywhere. From mining stations in deep space, from hospitals on distant worlds, from research labs and farms and factories across the galaxy. "Admiral," said his communication officer, "we have another message from the Altarian government. They want to know why their human doctors are leaving." Do-Yun sighed. "Tell them the same thing we told the others. The Galactic Council voted us out. We're following orders." He turned to look at the status board. Red lights showed where humans were still working to leave safely. There were more red lights than he had expected. On the medical ship Mercy, Dr. Bo-Ra Choi was packing the last of her equipment. She had worked at the Central Hospital on Proxima 3 for 8 years. The alien patients there trusted her. Some of them were crying as she left. "Dr. Choi," said Nurse Yuki, who was also human, "the Saurian patients are asking if we can stay just a little longer. The new doctors don't know how to treat the difficult cases." Bo-Ra looked sad. "I'm sorry. We have to go. Maybe the other doctors will learn quickly." But she knew it would take years for the alien doctors to learn what she knew. She had spent her whole career studying how to treat different species. The hospital had over 40 different types of aliens. Each type needed different medicine and different care. As she carried her boxes to the transport ship, Bo-Ra heard alarms going off in the hospital. Someone was having an emergency. She wanted to help, but human security guards stopped her. "Doctor, we have to go," one of them said. "Our transport leaves in 20 minutes. Bo-Ra got on the ship and tried not to think about the patient who needed help. On the mining world Kepler 438b, Sung-Woo Kang was shutting down the deep extraction equipment. He had been the chief mining engineer here for 10 years. The work was dangerous. The mines went down 20 kilometers into the planet's crust. "Boss," said his assistant Jin-Ho, "the alien workers are scared. They don't know how to operate the deep machines." Sung-Woo nodded. He had trained some of the aliens, but most of them only knew how to work the surface equipment. The deep machines were complex and dangerous. One mistake could kill everyone in the mine. "We'll have to seal the deep levels," Sung-Woo decided. "It's too dangerous for them to work down there without proper training." "But boss, the deep levels produce 60% of the planet's rare metals." "I know," said Sung-Woo. "But dead miners don't produce anything." He spent his last day on the planet sealing off the dangerous areas. The alien miners watched him work. They looked worried. The mining company would lose most of its production, but at least the workers would be safe. On the Farming World new series, Jae Young-song was teaching the alien farmers as much as she could before leaving. She had developed new ways to grow food that worked in the planet's strange soil. Her methods had increased food production by 300%. "Remember," she told the Zephyrian farmers, "the soil needs this special mixture every 10 days. Not every week, 10 days exactly. And the temperature must stay between 22 and 24 degrees. The Zephyrians nodded, but Jae Young could see they were confused. Their species was not good with exact numbers. They usually just estimated everything. "What if we forget?" asked one of the farmers. "Then the crops will die," Jae Young said simply. "And this planet feeds 12 other worlds in this system. If the crops die, a lot of people will go hungry." She gave them written instructions, but she wasn't sure if they would follow them correctly. The Zephyrians liked to change things and try new ideas. That was usually good, but not with farming. Farming needed careful attention to details. As her transport ship lifted off from New Ceres, Jae Young looked down at the huge farms below. She hoped the aliens would be careful. Back on Nexus Prime, Hee-Jin Park was training her replacement. His name was Thorvex and he was a Saurian engineer. He was smart, but he didn't understand how all the systems worked together. The life support system is connected to everything, Hee-Jin explained. When one part has a problem, you have to check all the other parts too. Why? Asked Thorvex. On our worlds, each system works alone. Because humans designed this station to be efficient, Hee-Jin said. Everything shares power and resources. It saves energy and materials. She showed him the main control room. There were thousands of buttons and screens and displays. This screen shows the air quality in Section 7. This one shows water pressure in Section 12. This one shows power usage in the docking bays. Thorvex looked overwhelmed. How do you remember what they all do? Practice, said Hee-Jin. Lots of practice. She had been working on the station for 6 years. She knew every pipe and wire and circuit. She could hear when something was wrong just by listening to the sounds the machines made. What if something breaks after you leave? Thorvex asked. Hee-Jin looked at him seriously. Then you'll have to figure it out. I'm leaving you all the manuals and instructions. But reading about fixing something is different from actually doing it. On the last day of the evacuation, Admiral Do-Yoon Lee received reports from all over the galaxy. The humans were gone. 8 million people had packed up their lives and left. The alien governments were already starting to ask questions. Why were their hospitals short of doctors? Why were the mines producing less? Why were the farms having problems? Do-Yoon looked at his final report. Humans had been working in over 4,000 locations across the galaxy. They had been doctors, engineers, farmers, miners, teachers, mechanics, and peacekeepers. Most importantly, they had been problem solvers. When something broke, humans fixed it. When something went wrong, humans found a solution. Now the aliens would have to solve their own problems. Set course for human space, Do-Yoon ordered. All ships prepare for jump to hyperspace. As the human fleet disappeared into hyperspace, the aliens on Nexus Prime were already noticing small problems. The air recycling system was making strange noises. The water pressure was lower than normal. Some of the lights were flickering. Thorvex tried to remember everything Hee-Jin had taught him, but there was so much to remember, and she had only had 2 weeks to teach him. He pressed some buttons and hoped for the best. 2 months had passed since the humans left. Ma Young-han sat in her small cabin on the colony ship Hope. She was reading reports that came from her old workplace on Nexus Prime. The reports were not good. Mi-young had been a systems analyst for the Galactic Council. Her job was to watch all the computers and machines and make sure they worked correctly. She had warned them that removing humans too quickly would cause problems. Nobody had listened to her then. Now they were starting to understand. Her computer beeped with a new message. It was from her replacement, an aviaran named Kethril. The bird-like alien sounded worried. Mi-young, I hope this message finds you well. We are having problems with the main computer system. It keeps showing error messages that I don't understand. Could you help us figure out what they mean? Mi-young read the error codes that Kethril had sent. She recognized them immediately. The central processing unit was overheating because the cooling system wasn't working properly. If it wasn't fixed soon, the whole computer network could crash. She started to write a reply, then stopped. The Galactic Council had voted humans out. They had said humans interfered too much. They wanted to handle things themselves. Mi-young deleted her reply and closed the message. On Nexus Prime, things were getting worse every day. Thorvex the Saurian engineer was working 18-hour shifts trying to keep the life support systems running. The air recycling machines kept breaking down. The water purification system was producing water that tasted bad. The artificial gravity in some sections was flickering on and off. I don't understand, Thorvex said to Administrator Kelthera. The human woman showed me how to fix these things, but when I do exactly what she said, they still don't work right. Kelthera was an insectoid who managed the station's daily operations. She was getting dozens of complaints every day. Perhaps you missed something in her instructions. I followed every step exactly, Thorvex insisted. But there were so many systems, and they all connect to each other. The humans understood how it all worked together. I only understand the individual pieces. In Section 7 of the station, the air was starting to smell strange. In Section 12, the water pressure was so low that some residents couldn't take showers. In the docking bays, 3 ships had been damaged. Because the automatic landing systems weren't calibrated correctly, 8 million aliens lived on Nexus Prime. They were all starting to notice that life wasn't as comfortable as it used to be, but the problems weren't just on the station. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy. On Proxima 3, the central hospital was in crisis. A rare disease was spreading among the tentacled species called cephalopods. Dr. Bora Choi had been the only doctor in the galaxy who knew how to treat this disease. Without her, 12 cephalopods had already died. The alien doctors tried to use Dr. Choi's old medical notes, but they couldn't understand her treatment methods. The notes assumed knowledge that only human doctors had learned in medical school. "Can we contact the human doctor?" asked Dr. Zilthax, the hospital's new chief of medicine. "The council's communication ban is still in effect," replied the hospital administrator. "We are not allowed to ask humans for help." "Then what do? We keep trying to figure it out ourselves." But while they were trying to figure it out, more cephalopods were getting sick. On the mining world Kepler 438b, production had dropped by 70%. The alien miners couldn't access the deep levels that Sungwoo had sealed off. They didn't know how to operate the complex machinery safely. Mine supervisor Grethek called a meeting with all the workers. "We need to increase production," he announced. "The other worlds are demanding their shipments of rare metals." "But the deep mines are sealed," said one of the workers. "The human said they were too dangerous." "The human is gone," Grethek replied. "We can't let his fears stop us from doing our jobs." Against the safety protocols that Sungwoo had established, Grethek ordered the deep mines reopened. The alien workers were nervous, but they needed their jobs. On the first day, everything seemed fine. On the second day, one of the extraction machines started making strange noises. On the third day, there was an accident. The machine exploded, trapping 5 miners deep underground. It took 2 days to rescue them. 3 of the miners were badly hurt. The deep mines had to be sealed again, but now they were damaged and would be much harder to repair. Grethak sent a desperate message to the mining company's headquarters. "We need technical assistance immediately. Our production has stopped completely." The company executives were not happy. The rare metals from Kepler 438b were needed for manufacturing across the galaxy. Without them, factories on dozens of worlds would have to shut down. On New Ceres, the farming crisis was even worse. The Zephyrian farmers had tried to follow Jae Young Song's instructions, but they had made small mistakes. They used the wrong temperature for the soil mixture. They watered the crops every week instead of every 10 days. They changed the fertilizer recipe because they thought they could make it better. The results were disastrous. The first harvest was 30% smaller than normal. The second harvest failed completely. The special crops that could only grow in New Ceres soil were dying. Farmer Yilthon looked at his dead crops and felt panic rising in his chest. "We need to contact the human farmer," he told his supervisor. "You know we can't do that," the supervisor replied. "The council banned all communication with humans. But 12 worlds depend on our food. If we can't grow crops, people will starve. Then we'll have to figure out how to grow crops without human help." But figuring it out was taking too long. Food shipments to the other worlds had already been cut in half. Grocery stores were running out of fresh vegetables. Restaurants were closing because they couldn't get ingredients. The most serious problem was starting to affect the whole galaxy. The hyperspace beacon network was failing. These beacons allowed ships to navigate safely through hyperspace. Without them, space travel became dangerous and slow. The beacons needed constant maintenance and precise calibration. Humans had built and maintained 73% of all the beacons in the galaxy. When they left, they had tried to teach other species how to keep the beacons working. But the technology was complex and the maintenance procedures were difficult. Former human peacekeeping commander Wu Jin Yu was monitoring galactic communications from his new home on the colony ship Freedom. He was reading reports about beacon failures across the galaxy. Beacon X477 in the Vega system has gone offline. Beacon cluster in the Sirius sector is showing navigation errors. Emergency. Beacon network in the Centauri trade route has collapsed. All ships avoid this area. Wu Jin shook his head. The beacon network was like a highway system for space travel. When parts of it failed, ships had to take longer, more dangerous routes. Trade slowed down. Communication between worlds became difficult. He had tried to warn the Council about this before the humans left. The beacon network was the most critical infrastructure in the galaxy. Without it, galactic civilization would start to fall apart. But the Council had been confident that other species could handle the maintenance. Now, 2 months later, 20% of the beacon network was either offline or malfunctioning. Ships were getting lost in hyperspace. Some had disappeared completely. On Nexus Prime, Speaker Vorthak was reading the daily crisis reports. His confidence was starting to crack. The station was falling apart. Hospitals were failing. Farms were producing less food. Mines were shutting down. The beacon network was failing, and all of these problems seemed to trace back to one thing: the absence of humans. Perhaps, suggested Administrator Kelthera carefully, we should consider sending a message to the humans, just asking for technical advice. Vorthak's pride was hurt, but he was also worried. Absolutely not. We voted them out because they were interfering too much. We can't go crawling back to them after just 2 months. But sir, the problems are getting worse every day. Then we'll solve them ourselves. We managed the galaxy for millions of years before humans arrived. We can manage without them now. But deep inside, Vorthak was starting to wonder if that was really true. 6 months after the humans left, In-Ho Shin was monitoring emergency broadcasts from across the galaxy. He sat in the communications center of the human colony ship New Horizon. The news was getting worse every day. In-Ho had been a diplomatic communications officer before the exile. His job had been to help different species talk to each other when they had problems. Now he just listened to their desperate calls for help. "Mayday, Mayday," came a voice from the speakers. "This is cargo ship Stellar Wind. We are lost in hyperspace. Our navigation beacon is not responding. Can anyone help us?" In-Ho wanted to answer, but humans were banned from helping alien ships. He had to listen as the ship drifted further into dangerous space. Another message came in. "This is the government of Altair 4. We are declaring a medical emergency. A plague is spreading and we don't have enough doctors who know how to treat it. Please, if any human medical ships are listening, we will pay anything for your help." In-Ho wrote down the message and sent it to the Human Medical Council, but he knew they wouldn't respond. The Galactic Council had made the rules very clear. No human was allowed to help any alien for any reason. On the refugee ship Safe Harbor, Ye-Jin Kim was dealing with a different kind of problem. Aliens were trying to escape to human space. "Please," begged a Zephyrian family at the airlock. "Our world is starving. The farm stopped producing food. We have children. They need to eat." Ye-Jin looked at the thin, desperate aliens. The children looked very weak. "I'm sorry, but human space is closed to all alien species. Those are the orders from your own Galactic Council." "But we'll die if we go back," the father said. "Then maybe you should ask your council to change the rules." Ye-Jin replied sadly. She hated turning away refugees, but the humans had been given very specific instructions. No aliens were allowed into human space until the council officially changed their decision. The alien family's ship turned away and disappeared into the darkness. Ye-Jin wondered if she would ever see them again. Back on Nexus Prime, the situation was becoming desperate. Emergency Council leader Thraxis had replaced Speaker Vorthak, who had resigned in shame. Thraxis was a calm, intelligent Aviaran who was trying to hold the galaxy together. But even Thraxis was running out of options. "Report," he ordered his advisors. Administrator Kelthera spoke first. "The station's life support system is failing faster than we can repair it. We've had to evacuate sections 3, 7, and 15. The population is down to 5 million and dropping every day." Military advisor Grex reported next. "Pirate attacks have increased by 400%. Without human peacekeeping forces, criminals are attacking trade ships and mining stations freely. 3 more systems have declared that they can't protect their shipping lanes." Economic advisor Quellen had the worst news. "Trade between systems has dropped by 60%. The beacon network failures mean that ships can't travel safely or quickly. Many worlds are running out of essential supplies." Thraxis felt overwhelmed. "What about food production?" 15 worlds are reporting food shortages," Kelthera answered. "The farming techniques that humans developed are too complex for other species to maintain. Crop yields are down across the galaxy. And medical care? Hospitals are struggling everywhere. Human doctors had specialized knowledge that other species are having trouble replacing. We're seeing disease outbreaks that we haven't seen in decades. Thraxus was quiet for a long moment. How long before complete social collapse? The advisors looked at each other nervously. Maybe 6 more months, Kelthera said quietly. Maybe less. That night, Thraxus made a decision that went against everything the Galactic Council stood for. He sent a secret message to human space. To any human authority listening, this is Emergency Council Leader Thraxus. We need your help. The galaxy is falling apart without you. Please, can we negotiate? The message was received by former human diplomat Hyun-Soo Park on the colony world New Busan. Hyun-Soo had been Tai-Ho Kim's assistant before the exile. He read the message several times before taking it to the human leadership. They want to negotiate, Hyun-Soo told the Human Council. President Sung-Ho Lim looked at the message. After 6 months, they finally want to talk. What should we tell them? President Lim thought carefully. Tell them that if they want to talk, they need to officially reverse the exile vote. All 847 species need to vote again. Until then, we have nothing to discuss. When Thraxus received this response, he knew he had a big problem. Getting all the species to vote again would mean admitting that exiling humans had been a terrible mistake. Many species would be too proud to do that. But as more reports came in, Thraxus realized he didn't have a choice. War had broken out between the Ursans and the tentacled cephalopods. Without human peacekeepers to mediate, the conflict was spreading to other systems. Refugees were fleeing in all directions. The great trading hub at Alpha Centauri had shut down completely because the beacon network in that area had failed. Hundreds of ships were stranded, unable to navigate home. The medical plague on Proxima 3 had spread to 5 other worlds. Without human doctors, the death toll was rising every day. Most seriously, the central government itself was starting to collapse. Many worlds were declaring independence because the Galactic Council could no longer provide basic services like trade protection, medical aid, or communication networks. Thraxus called an emergency session of the remaining council members. Only about half of them showed up. The others were dealing with crises on their home worlds. Fellow representatives, Thraxus began, we face a choice. We can continue to let the galaxy fall apart, or we can swallow our pride and ask the humans to return. Speaker Vorthak, who had come out of retirement for this meeting, stood up angrily. Never, we cannot show such weakness. Other species will lose all respect for us. What respect? Asked Elder Quicanara. The ancient insectoid looked tired and old. Half the galaxy is in chaos. Trade has collapsed. Wars are starting everywhere. What respect do we have left to lose? The argument went on for hours. Some species still refused to admit that exiling humans had been wrong. Others were desperate enough to try anything. Finally, Thraxus called for a vote. All in favor of officially inviting humanity back to the Galactic Council? The vote was close. 423 in favor, 421 against. Just barely enough to pass. But when they tried to send the invitation, they discovered another problem. The humans weren't just sitting around waiting to be asked back. They had been busy. Intelligence reports showed that human colonies were expanding rapidly. They had built new cities, new factories, and new spaceships. Most importantly, they had built new weapons. When alien military scouts tried to approach human space to deliver the invitation, human defense fleets intercepted them easily. The alien ships were outgunned and outmaneuvered. How did they build such advanced ships so quickly? Asked military advisor Grex. The answer was embarrassing. Humans had been holding back their military technology, while they were part of the council. They had been trying to appear peaceful and cooperative. But now that they were on their own, they had no reason to hide their capabilities. The aliens realized that even if they wanted to force humans to return, they couldn't. The humans were now stronger than any individual alien species, and maybe stronger than all of them combined. Thraxus sent another message to human space. This one was very different from his first attempt. To the human government, this is Emergency Council Leader Thraxus speaking for what remains of the Galactic Council. We formally apologize for our decision to exile humanity. We were wrong. We need your help desperately. Please consider returning to help us save galactic civilization. We offer full membership restoration, expanded voting rights, and complete autonomy for human colonies. We will accept any reasonable terms you propose. Please respond quickly. We don't have much time left. On New Busan, President Sung-Ho Lim read the message aloud to the Human Leadership Council. Around the table sat former ambassadors, generals, doctors, engineers, and scientists. These were the people who had built and maintained galactic civilization for 50 years. "Well," said President Lim, "it seems they finally understand what we were worth. The question now was, what should humanity do about it?" 1 year after humanity's exile, President Sung-Ho Lim stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station. Through the huge windows, he could see the alien delegation ships approaching. They looked small and old compared to the sleek human vessels that surrounded them. In the year since leaving the Galactic Council, humanity had not just survived. They had grown stronger than ever before. "Mr. President," said his aide, "the alien delegation is requesting permission to dock." Sung-Ho nodded. "Grant them permission, but remind them that they are guests here. They follow our rules now." General Da-Un-jo joined him at the window. She had been the one who designed humanity's new defense fleets. The same fleets that had easily defeated the alien attack squadrons when they tried to force humans to return. "Are you sure about this meeting?" Da-Un asked. "We could just let them figure out their own problems." "That's what the hardliners want," Sung-Ho replied. "But Jin-Woo Moon convinced me that we should at least listen to what they have to say." Jin-Woo Moon was humanity's chief philosopher and ethics advisor. He had argued that while the aliens had treated humans badly, letting an entire galactic civilization collapse would be wrong. "Besides," Sung-Ho continued, "I'm curious to see how much they've changed." An hour later, the alien delegation was escorted into the main conference room of New Geneva Station. Sung-Ho was surprised to see who was leading them. It was Vorthak, the former speaker who had been so proud and arrogant during the exile vote. But the Saurian looked very different now. His green scales were dull and his eyes were tired. He moved like an old, defeated creature. Behind him came other representatives from across the galaxy. Elder Quixinara was there, looking ancient and fragile. Emergency Council leader Thraxus tried to maintain some dignity, but even he looked desperate. "President Lim," Vorthak said quietly, "thank you for agreeing to see us." Sung-Ho gestured to the chairs around the conference table. "Please sit down. You've traveled a long way." The aliens sat carefully. They looked around the conference room with amazement. Everything was clean, efficient, and well-maintained. The contrast with their own failing infrastructure was obvious. "Before we begin," Sung-Ho said, "I want you to understand something. You are not here as equals negotiating with other equals. You are here as supplicants asking for help from people you tried to cast out." Vorthak's pride was hurt, but he nodded. "We understand." "Good, now tell me exactly what you want." Thraxus spoke first. "President Lim, galactic civilization is collapsing. In the year since humans left, we've lost control of over 200 star systems. Trade has collapsed. Wars are spreading. Billions of beings are suffering. We need human doctors, engineers, peacekeepers, and administrators to return," added Quixinara. "Without you, we cannot maintain the basic systems that keep our society functioning." Sung-Ho leaned back in his chair. "And what are you offering in return?" "Anything," Vorthak said quickly. "Full restoration of human membership in the Council. Expanded voting rights. Access to all our technology. Complete autonomy for human colonies. We will even accept human leadership of the Council," Thraxus added desperately. Sung-Ho was quiet for a moment. Then he pressed a button on the table. A holographic display appeared showing a map of the galaxy. "Let me show you what humanity has accomplished in the past year," he said. The map lit up with human colonies and installations. There were far more than the aliens had expected. "We've established 67 new colonies. We've built the most advanced spacecraft in galactic history. Our economy is growing by 20% every quarter. Our research programs have made breakthroughs in medicine, engineering, and physics." He looked directly at Vorthak. "We don't need the Galactic Council anymore. We're doing perfectly fine on our own." The aliens looked shocked and frightened. However, Sung-Ho continued, "And we're not heartless. We don't want to watch billions of innocent beings suffer because their leaders made stupid decisions." He stood up and walked to the window. "We will help you, but only under new terms. Terms that ensure this never happens again." "What terms?" asked Thraxus. Sung-Ho turned back to face them. "First, humanity will not rejoin the Galactic Council. Instead, we will create a new organization, the Human Protectorate. Any world that wants human assistance can apply to join. Second, humans will have complete authority within Protectorate space. Your species can participate in government. but humans will have the final say on all important decisions. Third, any world that joins the Protectorate must contribute to its defense and maintenance. No more free rides. Fourth, humans will control all critical infrastructure, medical systems, transportation networks, communication arrays, and defensive installations. We will never again be dependent on alien goodwill. The aliens looked at each other nervously. These terms were harsh, but they were also desperate. What about worlds that don't want to join the Protectorate? Asked Kichinara. They're free to manage their own affairs, Xiongho replied. We won't force anyone to accept our help, but we also won't help them if they change their minds later. Vorthak spoke up. This means the end of the Galactic Council as we knew it. The Galactic Council ended when you voted humans out, Xiongho said firmly. What you have now is just the dying remains of what you destroyed. Thraxus looked around at his fellow delegates. They all looked defeated and ashamed. We accept your terms, Thraxus said finally. All of you? Xiongho asked. One by one, each alien representative agreed. Even Vorthak, swallowing his pride, nodded his acceptance. Very well, said Xiongho. We'll begin organizing relief efforts immediately. But understand this. If you ever try to betray us again, we'll simply leave. And next time, we won't come back. 6 months later, former Speaker Vorthak was working as a junior administrator in the Human Protectorate's Agricultural Division. His job was to coordinate food distribution to worlds that were still recovering from the farming crisis. It was humbling work for someone who had once commanded the respect of 800 species. But Vorthak was learning to find satisfaction in it. Every day his work helped feed hungry people across the galaxy. His supervisor was Jae Young Song, the human farmer who had tried to train the Zephyrians on new series. She was patient with Vorthak, but also firm about maintaining proper procedures. The transport to Kepler 442 is ready, Vorthak reported. 12,000 tons of grain and vegetables. Good, said Jae Young. What about the medical supplies for the cephalopod colony? Dr. Bo-Ra Choi confirmed the shipment this morning. The anti-plague medicine should arrive in 3 days. Jae Young nodded approvingly. You're getting better at coordinating these complex shipments. Vorthak felt a small sense of pride. It was different from the arrogant pride he had felt as a council speaker. This was the pride of doing useful work that helped people. Supervisor Song, he said carefully. May I ask you a question? Of course. Why did humans agree to help us? After how we treated you, you could have just let us all suffer. Jae Young was quiet for a moment. Because that's not who we are, she said finally. Humans don't help people because we expect rewards. We help because it's right. But surely you must feel some satisfaction at seeing us humbled. Some humans do, Jae Young admitted. But most of us just feel sad that it took so much suffering to make everyone understand what we were trying to tell you. Vorthak thought about this. What were you trying to tell us? That cooperation works better than competition. That helping each other makes everyone stronger. That diversity of ideas and skills is valuable, not threatening. She looked at him seriously. Your species made the mistake of thinking that being different from humans meant being better than humans. But being different just means being different. We all have things to contribute. As Vorthak walked home that evening, he reflected on how much had changed. The Human Protectorate was growing every month. More worlds were applying to join. The humans were rebuilding the beacon network, restoring trade routes and ending conflicts through skilled diplomacy. Most importantly, they were training other species to maintain the systems they built. Unlike before, humans were making sure that critical knowledge was shared and preserved. The galaxy was healing. It would take years to fully recover from the chaos that followed humanity's exile, but progress was being made every day. Vorthak had learned a valuable lesson. The humans hadn't been interfering in galactic affairs because they thought other species were inferior. They had been helping because they cared about the well-being of all sentient life. Now, working under human guidance, Vorthak was finally learning to care about something bigger than his own pride. He was learning to be part of a community where everyone's contributions were valued. The Galactic Council was dead. But something better was being built in its place, something based on mutual respect, shared responsibility, and the understanding that diversity made everyone stronger. As he reached his small apartment, Vorthak looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were delivering medical supplies to plague victims. Human engineers were fixing broken machines. Human peacekeepers were stopping wars before they could start. The humans had forgiven the galaxy for its mistake. Now it was up to everyone else to prove they deserved that forgiveness. Tomorrow, Vorthak would go back to work.